All right, welcome into another episode of the Empty Gym podcast. Just going to preface this by saying had some technical difficulties on the Skype, so the recording cut off randomly, and we did not realize it. So we ended up talking for another 30 or 40 minutes about something, about all kinds of stuff, but we didn't get it recorded. And then both me and Adam, had to go on to do other things that we got tonight between homework and other previous commitments and stuff. So we didn't have time to go back and re-record everything. So if it cuts off randomly in the middle of the episode and the episode just ends abruptly, we apologize for that. Had some technical difficulties. We kind of joked about it after, kind of amazed that this is the first time we've had technical difficulties, being that we just do this on Skype and just upload it basically from there. So I guess just be thankful that this is the first time that we've actually had this problem before. But yeah, so at some point the episode's just gonna kind of end abruptly out of nowhere. So apologies for that. But as I mentioned in the podcast later, but I'll mention it again. Finals week next week for all three of us, between me, Mikey, and Adam. So we're going to try our best to get an episode out next week, but it might not happen. So we'll just kind of play it by ear, and hopefully we can get it figured out. But with that being said, here's the episode for this week. All right, welcome back. Another episode of the Empty Gym podcast. I'm Jack Hobson, as always, joined by Adam Pollard. No Mikey T today. Finals are coming up here at Butler University. So we're going to be dealing with a lot of scheduling conflicts over the next 2 weeks. So we were able to get this one in today with just me and Adam, and then next week we'll try to get one out. Just a programming note, I guess, at the top of the show. Next week's finals week for all three of us. So going to try and get something out, but could be tough. So worst comes to worst.
Academics come first.
Of course, academics do come first. But worst comes to worst, we'll be back in 2 weeks. But we'll try to get one out next week. But let's get into it. Big week of college basketball this last week. As college football starts to wrap up, we get a lot of these conference challenges. Conference play starts up in a couple places with some of these like early, late November, early December game or two for some conferences. Like Big Ten did it, Missouri Valley did it, ACC did it, stuff like that. So we had a lot of good games this week, a lot of good games coming up this next week. The biggest upset, of which there were many that we're going to talk about, but number one, Purdue, no longer. I feel like that this is a team that is allergic to being number one in the country. Seems like they always, right once they get it, they lose it, and they lost it last Friday against Purdue in overtime, 92-88.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because we spent all last show just glorifying Purdue, and Purdue's legit. They still are legit, but
yeah,
Purdue's legit. You know, they're the outright best team in the nation, and then they go into Northwestern and lose in overtime. So kind of a wild turn of events there. Crazy game though from Boo Boo at 31 points. He went off.
Yeah, all three of Northwestern's guards were crazy. Like you said, Boo, 31 points, 9 assists. Ryan Langborden, 20 points, he 4 of 5 from 3. And Ty Berry, 21 points, 3 of 5 from 3. Accounted for 72 of Northwestern's 92 points. The big thing I thought, as we talked, like you said last week, we were talking about how good we thought Purdue was, how much better we thought the guards were. And the guards, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, they scored enough, but a lot of turnovers for them. This is a stat that I thought was very interesting. Purdue did out-rebound Northwestern 52-27, so big differential there. I think they had like 16 offensive rebounds alone.
Wait, time out. Where are you getting these stats from?
Ken Palm.
For some reason, Yahoo Sports has Purdue at 47 rebounds and Northwestern at 26.
I also did mental math, so I could be wrong.
Oh, mental math guy.
Could be wrong. Ken Palm does offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds separate and doesn't have a total rebounds. So
So 'cause on Yahoo Sports, it has 5 offensive rebounds for Northwestern and 13 for Purdue.
yeah,
Who knows?
I definitely messed up the mental math there, but whatever it was, they out rebounded
Whatever it
them by
was,
a
they out
lot.
rebounded by a large margin.
But Purdue had 17 turnovers to Purdue's 3.
I
So
did see that too.
Purdue just that one I didn't have to add up. That one
No,
was just
no.
there.
That is also what Yahoo Sports has written down as well.
That one was just there, so I didn't have to add that up. So I feel confident about that one. But yeah, I mean Purdue could not take care of the ball. Like I said, 17 turnovers. It continued to shoot poorly from 3, 5 of 19, 26%. And then, like I said last week, this one did stay true after all the things we said about Purdue that were good. Besides Zach Edey, Zach Edey's always going to be good. He had 35, 14, and 3 blocks. Uh, but everything else we said about Purdue that we thought was better uh, was not in this game. The one thing that I was still concerned about was the lack of production from their 4 men, which I feel like that's just been rotating, trying to figure that position out. Trey Kaufman-Renn, Mason Gillis, Ethan Morton, and Cam Heide all combined for 14 points. So lack of production from there, but yeah, the shooting is the big thing. I think like only 26%. Granted, first road game against Big Ten team. I think there might be their first true road game total.
For Purdue?
Yeah, I
I
know they
want to
played
say
out
you're
in
right,
Maui,
yeah.
but I don't think they. I think this is their first true road game, so it's hard to win on the road, especially in conference. So I don't think this is anything to worry about. But the one thing I would be worried about is that the same problems continue to reoccur for them, and they're big problems. The shooting is not good. The you're not getting any production from your 4 men, and you've tried multiple different options, and it still continues to not work. And then turning the ball over, and like Purdue's defense is never going to force a lot of turnovers. That's just not really like the defense they play. So it's like I'm not surprised that Northwestern didn't have many turnovers. I'm surprised they only had 3 because they took great care of the ball. They got a shot on almost every possession, but 17 turnovers Purdue is not good at all, obviously. So the big thing for Purdue with me is that the same problems feel like they keep reoccurring.
Yeah, and it's always an up and down with Purdue. It feels like every single year, it's when Purdue loses a game, they get a lot of hate for it, and a lot of that hate is sometimes unwarranted. But there are the problems that you do see, like the turnovers, like the shooting, like those are there. They do get a lot of unnecessary hate. With I think just their recent tournament um, lack of success that kind of piles onto it. But it's always a roller coaster with Purdue. They go out and they win the Maui last week, and everyone, including us, were Purdue's legit. Purdue is best team in the nation. And then they go to Northwestern and lose by 4. So I feel like this whole Purdue season is going to be kind of up and down. They might go into Michigan State later this season and beat them, or maybe they go beat Illinois, and then maybe they lose to Rutgers. Like it's just going to be an up and down season, and that's just what you're going to get with Purdue.
Yeah, and I think also Northwestern, I think it's just a good team too. They obviously were very good last year. They lose Chase Audige, but you kind of were hoping to get Boo Buie. Not he can't get much better to be honest. Like from last year, like he was an amazing player last year. I don't think you were going to see much improvement. You're just hoping for not really a regression, and he definitely has not regressed at all. And then you bring in a guy from Princeton with Ryan Langborg to kind of not really fill the spot of Audige, but maybe fill the numbers on the stat sheet in a little bit different way. Langborg more of like a kind of a dead-eye shooter, like probably a better shooter than Audige was, but Audige's game was a little bit more complete. But Ty Berry, I think, is the one where you've really seen a step up and improvement for him. 21 points for him, like I said, 3 of 5 from 3. So it's like those guards just kind of dominated Purdue's guards. But I think Northwestern's a very good team too. That can, as the season goes on, you'll see them winning a lot of Big Ten games. They shot 50% from three, 10 of 20. So that played a big role in that. Uh, Obviously, though, Zach Edey, definitely the best player on the floor. He, like I said, dominated with 35 points, 14 rebounds, sent the game to overtime. That was a very well executed play. I thought, I think there was like 3.8 seconds left or something like that when Northwestern or Purdue had the ball down two. They get it to about the hash mark, like at the coach's box, where you see all the NBA teams when they get a timeout to advance the ball. They got it up to there in about a second, called a quick timeout, and then had that over the top play, ATO for Edey to send it to overtime, but just wasn't quite enough for them. But I think Northwestern's a very good team. Obviously, Purdue still got they're still really good. I think this is not going to be uh, a, a like a step back for them by any means. I think it's just tough to win on the road in the Big Ten against good teams. But definitely the reoccurring issues are concerning a little bit. But credit to Northwestern for a great game too.
This is a very good win for Northwestern. I feel like maybe now we can start talking about resume wins and seed lines, and this is a win for Northwestern that might be able to put them over the hump on another teams that this win against Purdue will maybe bump them up a seed or something. We'll have to see. It'll all depend and see how it shakes out. But this is definitely a big resume win for Northwestern. But if you look at Purdue's next three games, tonight they go and play Iowa, or Iowa comes down and plays. Sorry, then they got to go play at Alabama, and then they play Arizona. So those are three tough games, and this is not how you wanted to start going into this 3-game stretch with the loss at Northwestern.
Yeah, they play Iowa in about an hour and 11 minutes from when we're recording. So that's one that they really need. One, just to get back on track, obviously, but two, the scary thing about these early December conference games is that you have two games when you're still kind of trying to figure everything out a little bit. And I know Purdue brings back pretty much everyone, so it's like, how much do they really have to figure out besides kind of implementing Lance Jones more into the offense and stuff like that? But there's not much that Purdue needs to figure out in terms of knowing how to play with each other and everything. But for a lot of teams, this is kind of a time where they're still trying to mesh and everything. And you can easily, if you're not prepared, go down 0-2 before you know it in conference play. And I know it's only 2 games, but it gives you a real bad start when you're already before the real gauntlet of conference play starts, and you're already down 2 games to however many teams won both of their games. So definitely big for Purdue to get back on track tonight and get that win, especially like you said with that stretch they got coming up to close out the non-conference play before Big Ten play gets back going again in January. But yeah, tough stretch they got coming up. So real important that they kind of get back on track here. Should move on to the SEC ACC challenge.
If we have to.
Well, we'll start off with a positive, or I guess not really a positive note for you either. North Carolina puts 100 on Tennessee. Harrison Ingram, RJ Davis, Armando Bacot kind of establishing themselves as one of the better big threes in college basketball. Ingram had 20, RJ Davis 27, and Armando Bacot 22 and 11. So they all played very well. The big thing for me, I thought Elliot Cadeau only had 5 points, but 10 assists and 0 turnovers. So to see that from a freshman guard was very encouraging for North Carolina.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps out with Bacot and RJ Davis and Harrison Ingram. One thing that really stuck out to me, I guess 2 things. Number one, on Tennessee's side, somebody has to step up and help Dalton connect. He had 37 points. Feels like he's doing just about everything he can for Tennessee. So who's going to be that guy to step up and help him out that scoring role? The second thing is Tennessee gave up 61 points to North Carolina in the first half. On average, Tennessee gives up 61.5 points per game of the last previous games, whatever they played. This season, that's how much they gave up each game on average. So they gave up their average pretty much in the first half to a UNC team, which is a very good UNC team, but still giving up
Yeah,
61 points in the first half when you, on average, hold your opponents to 61.5 points per game. Big difference there.
yeah. It was it. I don't even know how to describe that first half. Like it just looked like Tennessee was all out of sorts defensively, which you don't often see from them. Uh, to hit off your first point, with someone helping out connect. Josiah Jordan James, I think, had like 20 points in that game. He helped them out in some big stretches, but like you need one of the guards to step up. Ziegler, I don't know if you're ever going to get it out of him offensively. Like he can have a game here or there, but I don't think you're going to get anything consistently offensively out of him in terms of scoring. Uh, and so I think it's Jordan Gainey, the transfer from SC Upstate, that really needs to step up for them. Uh, Probably their third best offensive player outside of Connect. And Jordan James, based on the way Vescovi's been playing this year, I feel like he hasn't quite hit his potential yet. I mean, this game, I think he had 0 points against North Carolina. But even in Maui, I felt like I was always wanting more out of Vescovi, and he never really gave it that much. So it's like he's another one that really needs to step up. But I think, especially the way Vescovi's been playing, I think Gainey really needs to take it kind of a leap. And like, uh, I know he's not like as dynamic of a player as Connect is, but both of them are stepping up from lower levels up to the high major power conferences. So sooner or later, I mean, he's played good in some spots this year, but I think he needs to take a real step up. In terms of the defense, I think also Tennessee just has a big fouling problem. They in this game, 24 fouls, 38 free throw attempts for North Carolina. Against Purdue last week, or 2 weeks ago now, they had 30 fouls and 48 free throw attempts given up uh, in that Purdue game. So it's like, I don't know if that's you bring a guy like Connect who like what Tennessee has needed for a long time is a great offensive player. Since that 2019-20 team that had a really good combination of kind of both great offensive players and great defensive players. Uh, um, Connect is like a very elite offensive player, but really lacks defensively. So I don't know if it's like people getting into trouble having to come over and help based off of Connect's lack of defensive ability or what. But not only is the defense just putrid against Carolina, but they're getting into foul trouble a lot and putting people on the line a lot, which obviously never helps either.
Yeah, that's kind of Tennessee's identity in a way. They have always played a very physical brand of basketball. I mean, you saw it, especially firsthand for me in the Duke game, the round of 32. That one, that was very tough to watch. But if you look at it from the UNC side, and I will give UNC their flowers here. They led Tennessee in every team stat except for field goal percentage and blocks. Every other stat category they had them beat in. I think this is a very underrated UNC team in a way, just based on how last season went for them. Like they snuck into the AP top 25. I think they're or sorry, not top 25, top 10. I believe they're top 10 right now.
I think they're number 9. Yeah.
Yeah. So they snuck in there. This is a very good win for UNC. This is a very good Tennessee team. I know you're at home, but this is still a very good win. I think the trio you have with Baycott, Harrison Ingram, and RJ Davis is very elite and one of the best trios in college basketball. I think you're seeing the success that they've had when they got rid of Caleb Love. I think, like you said, it was addition by subtraction pretty much. And so I think that's very good for UNC. But are we worried about Tennessee here? Is this something that because they've dropped what, like 3 in a row now?
Yeah, so I think it might be 3 in a row now. But yeah, I mean, it's to go back to your point about kind of a different team with Caleb Love gone. I don't know uh, if it's because Cadeau's coming in as a freshman and kind of being told what to do by and yeah, by the way, that is 3 in a row for Tennessee that they've lost. But to get back to the point, I don't know if that's Cadeau like being a freshman and RJ Davis kind of telling him, hey, like we got players here, like take a shot if you're open,
Yeah,
but
know your
don't
role.
don't hunt for shots. Know your
Hmm.
role. Because I mean, like I said, only 5 points, but 10 assists, no turnovers. To see that from a freshman guard is big, and that was never happening last year.
Oh yeah, if you told Caleb Love to know your role and take a shot when it's open, he would just shoot more.
Yeah, he would say, I'm open more than you think I
Yes,
am."
coach, I'm open.
And like he's having a good year over at Arizona, but I think it just was never going to be a fit between those two with RJ and Caleb, both on the court and obviously the off the court rumors of stuff going on over there was definitely not helping at all either. But I think you're seeing a team that's gelling together a lot more, a team that's like everyone knows their role on that team. Uh, Harrison Ingram has come in from transfer from Stanford and really been a great like wing for them and really like starting to figure out his game at a higher level. Like obviously he was in the Pac-12 last year, but playing for a Stanford team didn't really have much around him and kind of could do whatever he wanted in a way. But now that he's on a better team with Carolina, kind of has to figure out how to play with better talent, which sounds easy, but it's a lot harder than it sounds to kind of have multiple talented players kind of figure out their role within each other and kind of figure out how to play with each other, stuff like that. So you're seeing Harrison Ingram adjust to that really quickly and really well. And then, like I said, Cadeau, I think the scoring will come for him eventually. I think if he continues doing this and not really like forcing anything and just like being a good point guard and like passing it when he needs to, finding open people, and then like the shots will fall eventually when he's open and stuff like that. So I think Carolina can be a really good team this year. Like obviously that year they did make the Final Four and made the national championship game. They have a decent amount of those guys still here, and I mean like they're just so that like they obviously have the talent to make a deep run and be a good team. I just think it was a lot of chemistry issues and stuff like that. And then they brought in even more talent, and you got a guy like Cormac Ryan scoring 15 off the bench for them, transfer from Notre Dame. So I think this is a really good sign for Carolina. I think they can be a really good team, but for Tennessee, yeah, it might be close to panic button pushing time. Looking at their next stretch, they do have easier game tomorrow night with George Mason on Tuesday night, but then a feisty Illinois Fighting Illini team comes into Knoxville on Saturday. But then they got a couple easy ones against Georgia Southern, NC State, not a great team, should be a good one for them. Tarleton State, Norfolk State, and then you start SEC play. So uh, the SEC, we'll see how it is there. I feel like there's a lot of teams kind of figuring some stuff out, so we'll see what Tennessee can do out of that. But right now, it's getting close to. You might have to start figuring some stuff out for Tennessee, but Carolina looks really good.
And I think the addition of Harrison Ingram has flourished in a way that I don't that it went very under the radar. I think he was
Yeah,
like a top five transfer in the transfer portal, but because I was kind of worried at the beginning of the season, who would or how the void would be filled with Puff Johnson leaving and Pete Nance leaving, and Harrison Ingram has done like both of those in a way.
yeah,
And then obviously the addition of Cormac Ryan off the bench too kind of fills that Puff Johnson role. But those two guys have filled in very well for those missing pieces.
yeah, big time. Uh, should we head on to the? I can let you take the floor on this one.
Yeah. Let's just go. Let's go ahead.
Arkansas defeats Duke without Draymond Mark. Also, last Wednesday night. I'll let you take the floor for this one.
So Wednesday night game, I had a final presentation to give, So I didn't get to catch the whole game. Maybe for the best. But on the bright side, I did get a 50 out of 50 on my presentation. Did very well. So that's the bright side that came out of Wednesday night. So I get home. First thing I do is turn on the TV, and Duke is losing by 1. It is 43-44 Arkansas. And then I'm making dinner, all this stuff, and I proceed to look back up at the TV. And Arkansas, what feels like is up. They were up 14, literally just like that. I was like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'll just turn this game off. It was very bad. Um, Arkansas is a good team, but they didn't have a Tremont Mark, so that kind of adds to my demise in a way. Filipowski had 22 second half points. That's great. I think he ended up with like 25 or 26.
Yeah.
So that 3 or 4 in the first half obviously killed us. Jeremy Roach, if you're listening, I would love for you to go up for a normal layup once in a while and not try to draw contact on every single drive to the hoop that you have. I feel like we miss out on so many possessions because he tries to go up into contact and doesn't make the layup, makes it harder for himself, gets blocked, whatever. But I guess the main thing that stuck out to me, because we did kind of come back. At the end of the game, we did kind of come back. But the three that Caleb Foster took when we were down 4 with 15 seconds left, I thought that was ridiculous. The lane was wide open. Arkansas basically said, please shoot the 3 ball. Like, please shoot it. Like, we have not been the greatest 3-point shooting team. I wouldn't even say we're in the top half of 3-point shooting team this year. Arkansas was like, hey, shoot this 3 ball. We did. We missed. Obviously, that happens. The lane is wide open. Even if you do make that 3, you're still down a point. This is a 2-possession ball game. I mean, you can say it's a 1 possession if you get fouled in the 3, whatever. It's still a 2-possession ball game. I'm not saying if Caleb Foster goes and take that to the lane that Duke wins the game, but it definitely changes up the game because Arkansas, when we were fouling, they were going 1 and 2 at the line every single time. And they were having some shaky free throws that were going in. So I feel like if we just go in, take the easy layup, stretch the game out, make it longer, put more pressure on Arkansas, this game might have turned out differently. But I guess I'm looking more towards the end. But the whole entire game was just lackluster. I just feel like for the most part we don't do the right things when we need to, and it's very stressful because I thought this Duke team was gonna be so good, and we're still a good team, but with who we brought back, and it just felt like everything was kind of falling into place. The John Shire era was kind of kicking off right. You know, you bring Filipowski back, Jeremy Roach, Tyrese Proctor, Mark Mitchell, and you bring in the number 2 freshman class. Like, I thought this team would be different, and I was wrong.
Yeah. Filipowski, like you said, with the great second half, 26 and 10 on the game. Jeremy Roach, with all of his wild layups, did find a way to have 22 points. For Arkansas, Trayvon Brazile kind of had his breakout game with Tremont Mark being out. He had 19 points, 11 rebounds, and Caleb Battle, 21 off the bench. You didn't really have much production outside of Filipowski and Roach. I think the big question mark or the big thing this year has been Tyrese Proctor. Hasn't really had that big game against a big opponent really this year. Obviously, we'll get to this game in a little bit, but then got hurt in the Georgia Tech game. So he could be out for an extended period of time, but I don't know what else to say other than that. A lot of things to figure out for Duke.
There's a lot of things to figure out.
But Arkansas, that environment was absolutely crazy. And then they obviously rushed the court and everything. So cool moment for them down there. But a tough place to play. Arkansas is a good team that I think you caught them maybe at a bad time too a little bit. I think they go 1 and 2 down in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
So they were coming back a little bit on edge, a little bit fiery. So kind of caught them at a bad time a little bit too. But this is an Arkansas team that, like we said, these Musselman teams with all the transfers they bring in, all the freshmen they bring in, I feel like it's a damn near like a completely new team almost every year. So they're going to continue to keep getting better as the season goes on, as Musselman teams always do. But yeah, lot to figure out for Duke. So we can move on if you'd like, or you can keep going.
I'll just say one thing, and this also kind of applies to the Georgia Tech game, but we'll get to that later. I think there's a rotational issue that needs to be resolved. I don't think Ryan Young should be playing meaningful minutes. I don't think Jalen Blake should be playing meaningful minutes. I think, and I know it is early, but I think that Shire's kind of got to lean one way or the other with Caleb Foster or Jared McCain as who he wants to be. Hey, you're the freshman guard. Like, I not necessarily trust you more, but one of those, he's got to choose one of those guys, or one of those guys got to solidify themselves and say, hey, I'm the better player. I'm going to deserve these minutes. I earn these minutes. I feel like there's just a lot of rotational issues that need to be solved. And there's guys like TJ Power and Sean Stewart who, for the most part, have been giving very good minutes when they're in, but they're not seeing those minutes reciprocated in the next games. So I think there's just some rotational issues for the coaching staff to figure out as well.
Yeah, and I feel like that's stuff that always kind of gets figured out over time a little bit. That's stuff that, as the season goes on, you kind of get that rotation solidified a little bit more. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that they get figured out as the year goes on, but something that obviously you'd like to get figured out sooner rather than later. But
no, that would be great.
yeah, but moving on, another big ACC SEC game. Virginia beating Texas A&M at home 59-47. Big time Bennett ball game. Henry Coleman came back in a big way. He had 16 and 14, kind of single-handedly tried to keep them in that game. There was no Tyrese Radford for this game. Wade Taylor struggled a lot, 2 of 10 shooting from the field, 5 turnovers. And then Virginia with a lot of balanced scoring. All 5 starters had between 10 and 13 points, so they got all 5 starters in double digits. Didn't get anything from their bench, but it was enough to pull off a win against Texas A&M.
And when you say anything, you mean anything. They got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They got 0 points from their bench. Virginia did go on a 17-2 run against Texas A&M. I would love to see the stats, the numbers on when Virginia goes on a run where the point margin in between the run is like 15 plus points in favor of Virginia. I would love to see the stats because I would put a lot of money on it that Virginia wins 100% of those games.
Yeah, because if they can get one scoring run at all where they're kind of pulling away from anyone, at that point, like an 8-point lead for Virginia feels like a 15 or 16, and like going up.
It's like doubled. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like just the way that they play defense. Like, if you're down 10, it's like you're down 20. Like, it's just when they are able to get some type of scoring run and start to pull away, it just really makes it tough for a team to come back against them, just with how good they are defensively. But like we've said forever, I think even back to the first iteration of this podcast back in 2020, the offense is never going to be there for Virginia, but the defense
it doesn't really necessarily have to be either.
Yeah, it struggled.
I mean, you look at the success they've had.
Yeah, exactly. They struggled a little bit defensively against Wisconsin. Not even a ton. I think they held them to 66, but in terms of Virginia, that's struggling a little bit. Their offense was just awful that game. But if they can get enough scoring, like to hold a team in college basketball under 50, especially a team that's as good offensively as Texas A&M is, like, granted they didn't have one of their best guards and one of the best guards in the SEC with Tyrese Radford. But Wade Taylor, one of the better players in the country, arguably probably like a top 25, top 30 player, something like that in the country. Predicted by a lot of people to be SEC Player of the Year. Hold him to 2 of 10 shooting from the field. You're going to you're really happy with that if you're Virginia. Good to see Henry Coleman play well, coming off an injury. Don't know how much longer Tyrese Radford's going to be out, but probably saw the importance of how important it is to have two really good guards, um, especially against a defensive team like Virginia. But yeah, this is just what Virginia does, and they do it really well.
Yeah, they slow you down. They make you play their brand of basketball. It's a very boring brand of basketball to watch, but they make you play that style. And if you don't play that style, you're gonna lose. And they're better at playing that style than you are. And so, they're gonna beat you out in that. And but good win for UVA. Uh, Texas A&M, I wouldn't worry too much. Like we've been saying, Tyrese Radford is out, and when you lose a guy like that, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be figured out on the floor, on the fly. So I wouldn't be too worried about Texas A&M though.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Big East Big 12 battle. Biggest game coming out of that so far. Or probably for the whole, definitely for the whole challenge. But um, with this one was UConn. Their comeback falls just a little bit short at Kansas. Lost 69-65. Kansas jumped out to a big lead. I felt like they were just there from the jump. Got up to as much as 12 in the first half. UConn's offense, watching that game, just looked just completely out of sorts. Kansas defense, they weren't even like turning them over or anything. It just like countless times UConn was just having to chuck something up at the end of the shot clock. Granted, Tristan Newton hit a lot of shots in the first half to keep them in the game. He ended up with 31 points on 10 of 18 shooting, 6 of 9 from three. And it just felt like time after time, especially in the first half, he was just hitting crazy shots late in the shot clock to just kind of single-handedly keep him in that game. But Kansas was able to come out on top on this one.
Yeah, I think the major story of this was Tristan Newton dropping 31 points on the road. I feel like he's kind of solidified himself as one of the best point guards in the country, and I feel like he's also been overlooked. Like he kind of just dropped 31 points in Allen Fieldhouse and said like, "Hey guys, I'm still here. I'm still on UConn. I won the national championship last year." Because he does kind of get forgotten when you think about the best point guards in the nation. Um, I kind of sound like a broken record here, but I didn't like the shot selection for UConn at the end of the game, that 3-pointer. I believe that they had like 15 seconds and they were down two.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad shot. It was a somewhat of a good look, but he was I can't remember who shot it. I don't know.
I don't even remember
He was
either.
also like he was faded away from the basket too. It
Yeah.
wasn't a great shot. I mean, you're down two, like take it to the basket. They're gonna have to contest. Like you got a good chance at a foul being called. Um, Stretch the game out. I maybe Dan Hurley was thinking with the offensive struggles that they kind of had in a way, um, that we're just gonna try to win the game outright right here. Like that's not the worst thing in the world, because they did have to get 31 points from Tristan Newton to be down two. So,
Yeah.
um, this was just a very good game though. It was awesome to see a 4-5 matchup this early in the season when it's just there's no tournament involved. It's just these two teams are scheduling each other. So it was a fun game to watch, and um, I think both teams took positive notes from this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. UConn knows that they got a really good offensive team, but there's some really good defensive teams out there too that are going to take them out of their stuff. And Kansas did a great job of that. Kevin McCullough had 21 points, so big game for him. KJ Adams, I thought did a really good job from the line in this game. Hit several late free throws. He came into this game shooting 25% from the free throw line. So to see him come up and step up and hit a bunch of late free throws was big for Kansas. Gives you a little bit of confidence that they can't just kind of hack him at the end of the games. That other teams can't just hack him at end of games and it's a guaranteed miss or anything. So he hit a lot of late free throws to kind of seal that game for him, especially those last two with about, what was that, like 3 seconds left, something like that. So big win for Kansas, but UConn, they're streak against non-conference opponents finally ends at I think it was 22 or something like that. It was crazy.
It was a 10+ point victory margin too, wasn't it?
Yeah, they hadn't beaten a non-conference team by less than double digits in 25 games or something like that. So that crazy streak comes to an end, but uh, they had a tough task, not only just winning it by double digits, but winning it at all. And they obviously came up a little bit short, but like you said, Tristan Newton kind of solidified himself as one of the best point guards in the country. And I think that's big for them. They obviously get Stephon Castle back hopefully soon, a 5-star freshman for them who I don't think has played at all this season. Might have gotten hurt real early in the year, but I think he's been out the whole regular season if I'm not mistaken. But he should be back soon, so that'll be a big kind of boost for them to get him back in the rotation and everything. But great defensive game from Kansas. Coming off, obviously they went 2-1 in Maui or in Hawaii, but so still a good week for them. Didn't get the 3-0 like they wanted, but not many teams play this well coming off kind of a Hawaii Maui hangover. Obviously they got that kind of gimme game in between with Eastern Illinois that was probably a little closer than they were hoping for, but big bounce back for them. So good to see that for Kansas, and UConn will be just fine. So, and other games in the Big East Big 12 battle, Houston survives at Xavier 66-60. LJ Cryer with 23 points. Houston got out to a huge lead at the start. I think at one point it was 16-2 or 16-4, something like that. So props to Xavier for coming back, making it a close game. I think they took the lead at one point in there, if I'm not mistaken. But like I said, LJ Cryer fitting in just nicely at Houston with 23 for them, and they were able to secure a road win.
The only really thing I had on this game was the attendance at Xavier was 100%. That was packed. Cintas Center. Did I say that right?
Cintas Center. Yeah.
Cintas Center. Okay, I was juggling between the two. But I guess my question to you is: does this foreshadow in a way, maybe bring some question marks into how Houston will play on the road in this Big 12 schedule?
It could. I mean, they're going to be in arenas like this, and
Pretty much
environments
night
like
in,
this.
night out.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not going to Tulsa on a Tuesday night anymore, and it's going to be half empty. So I think it's good and bad for them. Obviously, going into a raucous environment like that, always tough to play in. But I think also it could eliminate them from. I feel like there was always a couple games a year when Houston was in the AAC that they, especially on the road, where they just kind of came out flat. And I think part of that could be just going into environments where teams don't really care and they know they're going to lose by 30 to Houston, and then Houston ends up coming out flat and either losing to a team that they shouldn't lose to, or the game's a lot closer than it should be. So I think it's both good and bad. It's, like I said, going to be tough going into those environments, but if you come out flat on the road in a Big 12 game, there's something wrong with you. It's not their fault for being a crazy environment. So they're definitely going to have no problem being motivated for a lot of those games. So it could be a positive for them. I think it's just tough to play on the road. So obviously they're not going to run through the Big 12 like they ran through the AAC and only lose one, maybe 2 games a year, or even sometimes go through the league undefeated. So they're going to lose. They're going to lose on the road. You just got to accept that's going to happen if you're Houston. So I think this might have been a good game for them to kind of play on the road and play in an environment like that and get used to it a little bit more, because it's definitely coming in the Big 12 because there's some crazy environments in there. But that was an interesting thought, kind of thinking about them going into more environments like this. But anything else on this one?
Not really, no.
Well, another game in the Big East Big 12 battle, the Butler Bulldogs. I talked about this one being real important. We were able to pull it off in overtime against Texas Tech. Jameel Telfort, 26, 5, and 7 for him. Hit some real big threes late, especially late in regulation. DJ Davis, 25 points, 8 of 8 from the free throw line, and in overtime alone, 10 to 10 from the free throw line in the game. So clutch free throws from DJ late, and triple double for Posh, 10 points, 10 boards, 11 assists. Chance McMillan for Texas Tech went kind of crazy. They came in as like the 322nd three-point shooting team in the country, something like that. It was like somewhere in the 320s. And Chance McMillan hit a bunch of threes for them. I think he ended up with like 24 points for them. This was a big win for the Dogs. This is one that we needed. Me and Mikey talked about it last week, the importance of this game, kind of setting up the rest of the non-conference season and getting into the Big East season. Real big chance of us being able to go into the conference season 9-2, and then start out with Georgetown at home. Could go into Providence over Christmas break at 10-2 with a chance to pick up a big road win. So really pumped about my Dogs pulling this one out in overtime.
I'm very happy for you.
It was nice to get this one. I think this is probably the biggest game, like the most important game since I've been in college here for Butler. Like, obviously the Xavier game last year at home was wild just because it's Xavier and it was Friday night. And if you don't know, a lot of I think one of Butler's rules is that classes don't happen after like 2:00 on Fridays. So for a night game Friday night against Xavier, students had ample time to be hydrated and ready for that game. So that game was
time.
So that game was pretty wild in a cool environment. But this was right up there. This was one of the coolest environments we've had in Hinkle since I've been in school, and one of the most important, if not the most important games to really like kind of solidify ourselves, show that we can win a big game against a good conference or good non-conference opponent, and set ourselves up to be 9-2. In non-conference, we got Buffalo tomorrow. The Bulls come into Hinkle Fieldhouse. I feel like I can confidently say this. They're really, really bad. So should be able to pull one out there. And then Cal on Saturday, and then Saginaw Valley State next Friday. The Cardinals looking to get that D2, D1 upset. So hopefully we can hold that off. But Dogs got a real good chance of going into conference season 9-2, and that's all that matters. So really, really excited about that. But some other couple more games coming up this week for the Big East Big 12 battle. Texas at Marquette. Shaka gets a chance to play his whole team. And Villanova at K-State. We'll get to Villanova in a second, but I guess we can kind of go right into that if you want.